In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Let us pray for peace, justice, especially for our brother Christians who are persecuted. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So tonight we work on two subjects. First, the morality and responsibility. And the second part, we work on the law, a natural law, an eternal law. Okay, so first, the notion of morality. They have that in page 402. Is the quality attributable to human action by reason of its conformity or lack of conformity to the standard or rule according to which it should be regulated. So here we have the word standard and the rule. To measure something, we must use a standard. When we measure a thing, we use a foot. The foot of the Queen, of the King of England, because we are so attached to the King of England. Americans are almost the unique country in the world not to use the British system. So we use that to measure. So what is the standard, what is the measure allowing us to say that the thing is moral or not? So I continue. This supposes, first, that human actions are voluntary and responsible. We saw that last week. Voluntary. So if there is voluntary, I am responsible. Secondly, that there is a standard or a rule by which the human conduct can be measured. And we see that that rule, that standard is the human nature or a right reason. Human nature or right reason. Our nature is to reason, so or right reason. So they are considered as the standard to measure if an action is good. If it is conform to my human reason, or to my right human nature or my right reason. So we have to consider two aspects. The norm we call intrinsic norm and extrinsic norm. Intrinsic norm, from which what has already been said, such a standard measure is provided by the end or the supreme good of man. So the intrinsic is the end or supreme good of man. The perfect good, we are tending toward that. We studied that last week. And the end is in intrinsic norm. I mean, when I do something according to my last end, my supreme end, my supreme my happiness, etc., my eternal destiny is good. Now, extrinsic norm, something measuring from outside. That measure here is from within, from my own nature. Now, from outside, it is what we call the law. The law. Law. How these two norms are related, it is what we are now to explain. So we have an intrinsic norm inscribed in our nature. In the end, when we attain our supreme good, and extrinsic from outside, measuring from outside, measuring from inside, measuring from outside. For the moment, it will suffice to say generally that man's end sets the norm against which the morality of his action is to be judged, and in terms of which the species of morality can be determined. What is the meaning of that? I mean, we can measure my action, the morality of my action, if they allow me to attain my end. In fact, when we studied means, and then last week we saw that a good mean, a mean that must be chosen in regard of the end. Huh? So if the mean attained the end, we can say it is objectively a good mean. So here, if we act according to our nature and our supreme good, and our last end, etc., that it is a norm. Huh? It is to act morally. Morality is there. In fact, morality is to act according to my nature, to what I am. Huh? Not to what I want to be, to what I am. I am a rational animal. I must act according to my reason. I must act according also to my animality. I cannot eat nails. Suppose the doctor said, oh, you need iron in your blood. Okay, I eat nail. No. We have to act according. I want to fly like a bird. No. No. Okay, so the relation of any human act to the end of man. So this relation, the relation of has two aspects, three possibilities. First, the act is morally good when, if the choice promotes the attainment of the end, the objective end and subjective end. We see that soon. The end. So if I attain my end, objectively and subjectively, I attain the good, my destiny, I am happy, and that is good. If there is if I don't attain my end, that is evil. In the measure I do an action, in that action, they put me aside of the track, leading to my end, that is immoral, or bad or evil. If the choice defeats the end. And finally, some acts are indifferent. I can't do that or not do that. So this third category presents a special problem, and we are discussing that in a few minutes. So the more fundamental distinction between action is the one. Some are good, some are bad. Some are good. If they are good, I must accomplish them. If they are bad, I must avoid them. And that is it is the starting point of ethics. Okay. And the problem of morality is that of determining what makes the one good and the other bad. That is the problem. Of course, we have to avoid evil and to do the good. But what is the good? What is the evil? That is the problem. To determine, to try to discover what is right and what is wrong. And all that is the central problem of ethics. If you are a relativist, you stop here. Because there is no universal standard of morality. Okay. Now I go to the next page. So in every action, we have to consider three elements. We call constituent, many names for that. I will give all the names, so if you read a book or an article, you have the determinant, the word used by Father Wallace. You have the constituents. You have the sources of morality, and you have the component element of morality. Well, those words are the same thing, okay? So some author will say the sources for the faculty use the word sources. Other they use constituent. Other they use the word determinant. Other they use the word component element. In every moral action there is three sources of morality. First, the act itself. We call that also, St. Thomas called that the object. The object of my act of will. What I will. You know, last week we saw elicited act, no? Elicited act is the act of willing. Huh? So it's the act itself, the object. from my deliberated will, what I want to do directly. Huh? Okay? The object of the is that which is actually done or projected as possible human accomplishment. It is also that about which the choice is concerned. I want to do that. I want to eat something. I want to go to on a trip. Or, in Latin, finis operis. I think I already explained that, no? When I explained the finality, the causality. Huh? Well, when the carpenter did the table, the first act of the will was to build a desk. The desk. That is the first element. Huh? So it is the object. For example, somebody killed, that the object of his action, or that the act itself is killing. He wants to kill. Huh? Okay. Is the reason why we say, Father Faculty used the word the act itself. But I know Thomas preferred the word object. I don't like the word object, because object immediately had the impression of something material. Huh? A bad thought is an object of the will. Huh? A desire of vengeance is an object of the will. So, in fact, it's better to see the act itself. I decide to vengeance, to exercise my vengeance, to exercise the right to obtain some satisfaction, injustice, etc. Huh? So it is the object, the act itself, so understood that primarily specifies an action as morally good or bad. The first element, determining is the object, is the act itself. Killing, stealing, committing adultery, lying, perjuring, or practicing charity, forgiving, etc. No? That it is the first element giving a quality, if you want, to the action. To kill is not the same thing that to give money to a poor. No, it's not the same thing. Okay. Secondly, now, in every action, we saw that when we study philosophy of man, we have a motive, a goal, an end. We have an end, motive, an end, motive, end, goal, objective, end. Okay. I avoid the word intention. I avoid, because intention, you remember, can be applied also to the intellect. Intentional union. So, but many times people, they say, I did that with a good intention. Okay, but I prefer not to use it. But you know, intention is here. In the most used meaning, intention, purpose, goal, motive. Okay. The end is the purpose, the motive for which the action and the agent acts. So an act otherwise good might be vitiated by being performed for an evil purpose. You have an example of that in the Gospel, when the rich man goes to the temple and he hires some trumpetist and they play trumpet and they say, look at me, I put $5,000 high, look at me. And the poor widow, they put 5 cents. You know? So that, in fact, to give $5,000 is a very good act in itself. It's very good. But the end vitiates, make wrong his action. He does that by pride, because he is proud, by pride. Okay? So another end, an act that is evil by its object, for example, a murder, cannot be made good because the murderer has a good intention. You know, I can corrupt a good action by a bad end, a bad intention, a bad motive. But I cannot transform a wrong action into a good action because I have a good intention. You know, I am a pastor in a parish, and there is a big problem because I have a parishioner. There was a flood and many lose their house. So I need money, $55,000 at least, to help my parishioner. I'm very good. I disguise, I put a... Wait, you say cagoule? Good. And during the night I enter the huh?
You're a robber?
Yeah. I don't need to use black suit because I am already in black. So I robbed the bank for $50,000. Nobody knows. I am very good, very good. And with that I save those people. Is my action good? No. A good intention cannot transform a bad action into a good thing. We say sometimes that the end just does not justify the means. You know? Otherwise, with a good intention, we can do many, many things. The problem, euthanasia is there. We have a good intention. We want to suppress the suffering of the people. But the end is to kill. So killing with a good intention is killing. So that is an element. And the axiom at the end does not justify the means. And here we oppose to relativism. Because for relativism, you know, that is good for you, the end is good for you, the end is not good for you, etc. Finally, another constituent. That means there is no morality without the act itself and the object we are doing. The motive, but what is the motive? It is the finis operantis. Here it is the end of the work, the action, the work, the action. Here it is the end of the worker. Remember that? So the carpenter builds that table to have money to feed his children. That is, it is the finis operandis, it is the motive. The motive added to the act. And that motive can corrupt the act. But a good motive cannot destroy, change into good what is evil. And finally, the third source, the third component are the circumstances. Circumstances are not only around the action, they belong sometimes to the action. That means they are a part of the morality of the action. I give you a simple example. I invite you in my presbytery to drink Coca-Cola, or maybe a little bit of rum in Coca-Cola. Okay, rum and Coke. So, I go to the sacristy, I take a chalice. So I fill chalice with Coca-Cola and vodka, and rum. What do you think about that? Circumstances make the act evil, sacrilege. Why? Because a chalice is consecrated. I can drink the same Coca-Cola with rum in the ordinary glass, no problem. But the fact I use a sacred vessel, a sacred vase, a chalice, that my action is a sacrilege. You know, it is what Antiochus did when he occupied Jerusalem. He took the sacred vases and he used that for orgies. He desacralized them. So the circumstances are important. We cannot do everything everywhere. Something we can say between us, we cannot say that on television. You know, what we can do in our house, we're not allowed sometimes to do that on the public place, you know, understand that. Huh? So the circumstances are when the action is done, where is done, and how it is done. By what means, etc. All those contribute to that. So that many circumstances can have a great influence. For example, to steal precious vases, in a museum, or to steal that in a church. It's not the same thing, because the place changed the action. Changed the action. Okay. For example, to punch someone. I punch a man on the street because he attacks me. I punch him. But I go to the White House. I punch the president. It's the same. It is the same fist, the same action, but not the same circumstances. You understand that? So circumstances can change it can change the value of an action. The action can be neuter, but So, so the moral act is like a tripod, if you want, like my tripod. I need 3 feet. The 1 feet is the act itself. The other feet is the source. Is the motive. And the 3rd feet is the circumstances. That are the 3 components of every action. So in every moral action, you have to look at that. What the person did. Secondly, what was the purpose, why she did that, or he did that. And finally, what circumstances. And when you have a condemnation for a crime, for example, the crime would be different depending on the circumstances, or depending on the directly will or not directly will. Okay. Next page. So some moralists list the motive or purpose among the circumstances. In fact, we can say that the purpose is a circumstance, but it is so important that usually we put the motive apart the other circumstances. So we have the act, we have the motive, we have the circumstances. For example, among the circumstances, you can have the means. I kill with a knife, I kill with an axe, I kill with a gun, I kill by drowning, etc. That is circumstances, but it's killing. Okay. Now, next paragraph. All the determinants must be good if we want the action to be good. You know my tripod here. If one leg is not functioning well, all the rest is fine. I suppose when you drive, your car has 4 tires, no? Except maybe 3 tires, but usually it's 4 tires. No? If 1 tire is flat, can you use your car? No. You know what I mean? To have a moral action, we have to take care of the 3 aspects, the 3 components, and every component must be good. If one is not good, the action, the totality of the action is not good, is corrupted. For example, the good action of giving money to the temple here was corrupted by the motive to be loaned. And also can be corrupted by circumstances, So our mere action depends on the 3. And the 3 must be good. Okay, I read the text here. Just as a being is good only when it has all the perfection of good belonging to its nature, so an action is good only when all the determinants of its morality are good. The 3 determinants. So you must know that perfectly. The act itself, the object. Secondly, the motive, the end. And thirdly, the circumstances. So an action is good when a morally good object, act, must be chosen, a good action. The action is specified by the object. In fact, the act, remember subject, act, object. Remember that? we saw the subject is determined by the object and the act is determined by the object. Here you have act and object. In fact, both are, but I prefer act here because we saw that the formula of morality is in the act of the will. No, what I will to kill. In fact, I will, the act, and the object is killing. They go together, the act itself or the object. Bon. I know here when Father Malady teaches that he used the word object, but be sure, object is not an object. It is what I will to do, the act itself I propose to accomplish. I continue. Thus, the motive, good, and circumstance also. Thus, the general rule is that a human action warrants the qualification of goodness is good only when all the determinants are in accord with the norm of right reason and therefore good. So the three elements must be good if I want the totality of the action may be good. Okay? When any single element is not there, is lacking, the action is lacking in goodness. It's not complete, it's not perfect. The action is characterized as morally bad, even though bad in a qualified sense. That means it's not absolutely bad. To give money to the poor is something good. But the motive is corrupting that good action. The action continues to be good in itself. The act in itself is good. But the morality of the total action, the totality of the action is corrupted. So one defect in a tablecloth, for example, makes the whole evil. If you go to the store and sometimes a tablecloth, instead of selling that $25, they would sell that $10, $5. Why? Because when they did that, there was a little mistake, a little error. In Montreal, we have a layman who works for us for many, many years for computer. And, he buys a large screen for computer. And he buys that at very low price. So what he does, he goes in the different store and he takes information if there is not a screen with some default, with some pixel not functioning. If 1, 2, 3, 4 pixels are not functioning, instead of selling that maybe $300, he will sell that $50. So he buys like that. But we know a few pixels for us is not a problem. But to sell something, we must sell something perfect. If it is not perfect, we have to accept to sell that at a lower price. It's the same for a used car and a brand new. Okay? I continue. Next paragraph. The consequences of the human action. So the consequences of an action normally do not affect its morality, except insofar as they are known and willed and thus become part of the nature of the act itself. That means when I am doing that action here, if I know that action will have consequences, good or bad, I know that, and I accept that I will the act and I will the consequence of my act. Well, separate example. You know that if you drink a mixture of vodka, gin, tequila, beer, probably you will have a big, big headache. But you have fun, and you make the challenge, I will drink that. You know you will have a problem, but you accept that. So if when you have a problem, it is your responsibility. That means we are responsible not only for the action, but we are responsible for the consequence of the action we preview. And be careful, we preview. If I don't preview, if the first time, I remember when I was a brother, we celebrated St. Thomas Aquinas. At that time, it was during Lent. March. And the director of the high school, he said, we'll not open no new bottle, but we will use the bottle already open. So when it happened, it was a big job. I remember we have a conversation, we were to speak about philosophy, etc., etc. And we drink a little glass, you know. But when I wake, I stood up, I have no more legs. I have no more legs. I am totally conscious, but no more legs. So I went to my room, and it's funny, it was a huge campus, huge. So we were meeting here, and my room was the last room on the campus, the last one. I floated up there. But it was not preview, you know. I did not know the effect of that. It's the same of sometimes people, they drink champagne. And well, the effect of champagne is to lose the sensation on your leg. So the person is not drunken, but you know, but if I preview that, after that I know I have to drive, what I have to do? To abstain from drinking. Because if I drive after having drunk, I am drunk, not drunk, but with that effect, I will maybe not able to drive correctly. So I continue. Yet, bad consequences, which though unintended or not willed, not preview, are foreseen as following from what is directly intended, may be a reason for forbidding an innocent act itself. That means if I know that even that act is good, but the consequence of my act can cause problem, but I have to see if is it necessary or not necessary, etc. So we arrive here to the famous problem, the central problem we call the principle of the double act. And Father Fagotti, you have the text, I give that text to you, number 6, page 420. 421. Number 6, page 421. That is excellent. And I am sure when you study fundamental moral with Father Melody, you will study that. And here you have everything you need on page 421. So if you go there, you have principle of double effect. He gave you some example. After that, he gave you page 422, the basic principle, 4 basic principles. And it is so well done that it was used for the problem of abortion. And you have that text on page 430.1 here. Issues here, you have that. That is excellent. And the one who did that article, Diane Irving, that edition used directly the text of Father Fagotti. And she is honest, and she quoted that she took his information from Father Fagotti. I remember, I think she came here, or another one, in the same, and when that he was a woman, a doctor, when she presented the problem of abortion with the double effect, she said, that is the text of Father Fagotti. At that time, I was teaching philosophy, ethics here. I used that text, but tonight I don't have the time to read that. But I will give you the essential. And Father Austin, page 404 at the bottom, will give you the 4 conditions. But Father Fagotti, you should read that for your own formation, for your information, and also to be able to use that when you discuss about pro-life, about euthanasia, you know. Okay? So, difficult cases are generally adjudicated in terms of principle of the double effect. So, 4 conditions that must be verified for one to perform an action from which at least 2 effects or consequences will follow one good and one bad. Or suppose when you you have a child, he is or she is 16 years old, okay? And well, she asks you to go to a party. And you know with certitude that party they will use drug. Huh? Well, so you love your child, you say, no, I forbid you to go there. I will not give you my car. But when you do that, it's a good thing. He or he will not commit a bad thing. You know, he will not contract a drug addict, for example. But you become your enemy, no? So there is a good effect, there is a bad effect. Well, that is the same for abortion, the same for many things. Huh? In fact, in life, many times we are confronted with that problem. So what are the principles? First condition. The action as determined by its object, the act itself, if you want, must be morally good or at least indifferent. First condition, the act must be at least morally good or indifferent. Second condition, the agent must not positively will the bad effect, but merely permit it. You don't want to make your child your enemy, but you permit that. It's not your desire to, no, you desire to prevent your child from contracting bad habit, drug habit, okay? But at the same time, you don't want that, you know. The bad effect is sometimes said to be only indirectly voluntary. You know that when you will take the decision, no, you don't have my car for that, you will not go to that, no dollar, nothing, okay? When you take that indirectly, you will also to provoke some little crisis in the family, you know, okay? Third condition, the good effect must be produced directly by the action and not by the bad effect. It is not because your child has a big problem with you now that you protect her or him from drug, you know. So that the bad effect is not the mean to attain the good effect. You want to prevent your child from drug, to acquire some drug bad addiction, okay? Otherwise, the agent will be using a bad mean to a good end. Okay? And for example, when the problem of when the mother has a big problem and the child can die from the surgery or from the medication. It is not will what is will. It is the health of the mother with the possibility that the child will maybe abort. But it's not will directly. And finally, fourth condition, there must be a proper proportion between the good achieved and the evil tolerated because of the. For example, I come back to the there is a good proportion, because if your child does not go to that party, and you know very well that party they use drug, and that is more important, there is a proportion in regard of maybe he will be furious against you for maybe 1 week, 2 weeks. After that, you can pass your car. Here I give you a simple example, but you can apply that to war. You can apply that to strike, abortion, euthanasia, many things. Okay? If you study bioethics, you will have that. And I gave you the issue of bioethics on page 430. If you read 430 here, the correct application of natural law theory, that is the application of the act with a double effect. If I have to teach that, I will pass a complete class only on that. But you can read by yourself, it's not too difficult. Okay? Here you have the essential, four things. At least retain that four thing. The act must be good or indifferent, and the agent must not positively will the bad effect directly, or may only permit it.
Father, could you look at what you have for page 430? It doesn't seem to be the same.
You have two texts about, I gave you two texts about, a text of Father Fagoté first, on page 423.
Yeah.
Page 423. And after that, I give you another text, 431 up to 8 here, and that is an issue about moral life. Huh? It is an application. You don't have that?
No. 430 is different.
It's summary.
Oh, you don't have that?
And then I got 4.
Yes, you have that, the 30. After 30, just after 30. Okay, I will print that during the recreation. Because it's very,
You
very
know what? It's here. Is that it?
Yes.
Page 523.
Okay. Oh, yes, you're right, 523. It was the old edition, 523. You're right. Okay? 523. That is very important and also useful for you because you will be called a day or another to discuss about abortion, about euthanasia, about strike, etc. You have all the elements to answer that. And the text of Father Wallace on page 405 is a very short, condensed summary. The text is a explanation of that. Okay, you understand that? I continue. A morally indifferent act. Is it possible to act a moral act that is indifferent? So we saw before, remember, we saw there are good acts, evil acts, bad acts, and acts that are indifferent, neutral. Huh? Is it possible to have a neutral act, to have an indifferent act? That's the question here. And we speak about that on next, on 53.2. Okay. So the object of an act is the primary determinant of its morality. And the object, the act itself, the object is the primary determinant. The first question is to ask, is this act in itself good or not? First question. Otherwise, the agent will be using a bad means for, but since it concerns the general nature of the act, it is expressed in an abstract way, such as exercising, working, speaking, swimming, etc. That is in general. Yet, a human act is never actually placed in the abstract. When we do an action, it's not abstract, it is concrete. Or if you speak about swimming, exercising, okay. But if it is you who exercise, that is no more abstract, it is concrete. You swim, it is concrete. Okay? You practice yoga, etc. Okay? So, view in the abstract way, that means abstractly, and that can be indifferent. Because some act, according to their nature, neither implies something permanent, pertaining to the other or reason. For example, walking in itself does not require reason. Walking in itself. Sleeping is not require reason. And also know something contrary to disorder. That means it's not opposed to the nature of man. In the abstract. But when you swim, when you eat, when you sleep, when you are doing an apparent indifferent act, is really indifferent act. No. Why? Because when you are doing that, you are conscious. You know we are doing that. And when you are doing an action, we saw that every time we are doing an action, we have an end, no? We have a purpose. Not only we know that we are doing something here, but we know there is a reason for someone. If I walk, it is because I need that for my health. Huh? If I eat, because I need that for my health. If I sleep. So even when I go to sleep, of course, when I am sleeping, I am not conscious. But when I go to bed to take a rest or to take a napsio, a nap at noon, sacred napsio, siesta, it is an act, not only I am doing, I know that, but I do that with a purpose. If I do with conscience, I am aware, if I do that with a purpose, it's a human act, it's a moral act. So it is difficult to concretely to do action purely indifferent. Of course, St. Thomas gives as an example fricat barban. Here, fricat barban. I have a beer. I remember I was playing with my beer. Right? Fricat barban. That's St. Thomas. Okay, I scratch my beer. But that is, of course, that is not a moral act. It can be a moral act. If I say, when I will scratch my beer, you push on the button and the bomb will explode. That is it. That is moral. But, what is the teaching here? That means, as long as I act with my intellect and with my will, my actions are human action. They are human action, and they must be conform to my nature. So if I eat, as a civilized man, not as a dog or pig, if I go to bed because I know tomorrow I have to work, I need energy, etc., even my animal action, as an animal, they are human action.
So, are you saying that there is no fourth condition? Are you saying that there is no morally indifferent act? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, what I want to say, it is difficult. It is difficult when we are awakened, when we are conscious, when we are using our intellect to do an action without having some goal for that. We are conscious that we are doing something and we are doing for something. Therefore, that action has a moral dimension.
But somebody thinks there is an indifferent act.
Yes,
but you don't.
There are. For example, I give you an example. Twinkling eye.
Blink.
Blink.
Twink.
Blink.
Cling.
Blink.
Blink. Okay? Blink. Blink, eye, it is indifferent. No? It's different.
No.
Yes,
But
it's
there's a
indifferent.
reason for that.
You did that many times. Otherwise your eye will be completely dry. It blinks. You remember when you were 16 years old, 17 years old, and a beautiful girl passed from you. Winking. It's interesting. Huh? You have a special word for that. When you wink, you did that with a purpose. It is the same action as blinking, but you use a special word because in that word you have already a moral dimension. No? No, it's true. It's not indifferent. If you remember when you were 16, 17, 18, in high school, and when you passed in front of a boy, and when they were winking, not blinking, winking. It was a message, no? It was a message. So it means even material, I will say, apparently neutral acts, like to eat, for example. But even to eat for us is a moral act. Because when we eat, we know what we are doing and we have a purpose for that. It is so true that if you don't eat, you are responsible for your death. Some people, they decide to die, they don't eat, huh? Up to death. In fact, to eat is a moral action. It is the reason why in every civilization we don't eat like an animal. In every culture, when we eat, we have a ritual, some rite. We sit at the table and we cook, we prepare the meal. The appearance are very important. We have an order. Usually we meet with others, we discuss, we drink wine, etc. So that is my conclusion for me. Of course, they are indifferent action. We have some action, we have no control. For example, I give you an yawning. You are tired. Yesterday you went to sleep about 3 in the morning and you went to job at 6 in the morning. During the day, you yawn. That is neutral act. You have no intention, it is in you. But you are at church, or you are in a class of philosophy, and you say, oh, or you are in the back of the church, you say, it's a message. Yawning can be indifferent, yawning can be moral. Like blinking, like winking. But we have not 2 words for. It's interesting that for that we have two words. And one implies morality, a message, the other. Yawning, we don't have that. Okay. That means, when you offer your day as a Catholic, in the morning you say, Lord, I offer all my day, everything I will do by love for you. Okay? We call that virtual attention. You remember that. Huh? So you will accomplish a lot of apparently neutral action. To put fire in your stove to cook something, but because you offer that's a virtue. You wash dishes. In fact, to wash dishes in itself, but for you is not indifferent. You do that with a purpose. You do that because you love your family, because you, etc. In fact, it's difficult. It's difficult to have pure neutral action. It's difficult. Except when we are not conscious. Of course, if I'm not conscious, if I am yawning because I am tired, I am not responsible for that. But if I yawn, with the purpose to say to the pastor, enough is enough. Okay, continue. So I go to the moral act. First, the object, secondly, it expresses in abstract way without that, okay? So at the bottom of the page, see in concrete way, however, every human act is morally good or bad. Because in the concrete, it is always performed for some end and with some circumstances. End and circumstances. So apparently the indifferent action you seem to do, they have a moral value. Think about the whole day. Every action you do at home or apparently it seems for example, you have you drive a bus, school bus. Well, you change you push the clutch, you watch. All that is moral action. Because you want to do your job correctly. As a Christian, you offer that in the morning. So even apparently action without no morality, they are filled with morality. It is so true that suppose by negligence you forgot to use the stop at the red light, what will happen? Your children will be killed. You have the responsibility of your passenger. So many actions. In fact, our life is filled with purpose. It's filled with purpose. It's difficult to say I do something without any reason. It's difficult. We cannot do that. Jean-Paul Sartre pretended that we can have a free act. You see, a man goes in a train and kills at random 15 persons. That is a free act, absolutely. It's not free. He want to prove that he is free, and to prove that he is free, he kills people. That is, you know, every action we do with a purpose has the color of the morality, the color of the totality of the good action, and the color of the purpose. The purpose. So you can stay in your kitchen, and every pie you do is a sacred pie. Sanctification, a little thing is there. Okay. Next page. So the end circumstances will remove. Okay. And now go responsibility and imputability. Well, if I am free in my action, I will have to answer the way I acted, the way I accomplished my duty, for example. So, responsibility, freedom as a consequence, responsibility. When I do an act with freedom, I am responsible. Freedom. But I am responsible for what? I am responsible for the act I did. So the act I did can be imputed to me, can be attributed to me. And that we call that imputability. The action I did, it can be imputable to me. We can say, you did that. You are guilty because you did that. And I have to respond to my action. So in fact, they are the two sides of the same coin. Responsibility and imputability. Here you have three dimensions of responsibility. First, excuse me, that chop makes me cough. Employed descriptively, it simply expresses cause-effect relationship between an agent and an action or a consequence, without implying anything with regard to the ethical character of the act. Now, for example, we can say this painting is attributed to Michelangelo. This painting is attributed to Picasso. This painting is attributed to Van Gogh, etc. The theory of relativity is attributed to Einstein. In fact, we know now that it was his wife who discovered that. But at that time, you know, it was almost impossible for women to speak in science. So, Albert Einstein proposed that theory as his theory. But believe it or not, it is what he said about, you know, every great man has a great woman. Therefore, I am not a great man.
You have to
You're not married.
The church. Okay. So that descriptively, that there is no here we attribute, we impute. But secondly, prescriptively. That means in the objective sense, it indicates a moral obligation, binding one to do or to avoid doing something. As in the statement, for example, it is a man's responsibility to care for his children. That is prescriptively. Then it is a kind of duty, a kind of law. Okay? I am responsible because I have some responsibility. You know? I have to accomplish that. And the third one is use ascriptively. If you go to Merriam-Webster, you explain that. No? The word is attribution. Attribution. In a subjective meaning. The term, this attribute, blame or credit, that is the word, it is the meaning we use now. That means, I am responsible for my action, subjectively. Of course, when you are a bus driver, you are responsible for the future. That is prescriptively, before. Okay? But ascriptively, it is after. When you did an action, and you have to answer for your action. It is the meaning of responsibility. You see the three meanings. The first, we attribute that painting made by someone, that sculpture by someone. Secondly, because we have a function, your function obliges you to be responsible for what will happen in the future. And the third is, after your action, when you have to respond for what you did. It is the meaning we use here. Here. We call that the subjective sense. Okay? So for moralists, because they are concerned not only with the objective moral character of what is done, and also, or not the objective good or bad, that can be imputed to the agent. That means, when you respond for your action, you respond to your action because you did well or you did not did well. In fact, if I did something well, I am responsible. Those actions can be imputed to me, can be attributed to me. You know, when we speak about responsibility, it's not only about bad action, it is also for good action. Suppose you are the coach of Yukon basketball. You know, your victories are good, and we can say that is attributed to you, attributable. You are responsible for the success of your team, but you can be responsible for the defeat of your team also. You know, so sometimes when we speak about responsibility, we are inclined to use the negative aspect. But there is also a positive aspect. For example, if you have an A or a B plus, a B minus, and like that, it is a good thing. It is attributed to you because you are responsible for that. Okay. Next page. No, excuse me, the next paragraph. The cooperation in evil. In connection with responsibility, a special problem arises when two or more agents cooperate in the production of an evil action, and the degree of their responsibility must be ascertained, fixed. This is known generally as the problem of cooperation, meaning by this the action of aiding another in carrying out an evil act, aiding another to accomplish something wrong. So, two kinds of cooperation. First, we have called them, I will go to the second, the material cooperation. Avoid participation in the evil intention. In fact, you cooperate, but you don't have you don't have the intention to do something evil. You know? The cooperator in the case does not want the evil action to take place. And there is an ambiguity about what he actually does. His assistance may in fact contribute to the evil act, but is not of his nature, or in circumstances exclusively ordained to the commission of the act. For I give an example here. Material cooperation is considered permissible under certain circumstances. For example, that the action of the material cooperator is not evil in itself. For example, suppose you are a taxi driver, and the people enter your car and say, okay, we want to go to National Bank, Citizen Bank on Main Street. Okay, put your and you say, okay, wait here. Okay, I wait. Within that time, they make a hold up, and they say, okay, now continue. They took off their, how do you say, their masks. Okay, that is cooperation. You cooperate to carry gangster, but you don't have the intention You are not directly in the complot, you know. Okay? So, and that he has a proportionally grave reason for doing something that may contribute in some way to evil action on another. For example, the main man who bring, for example, porno magazine, you know, he knows that that kind of magazine, that is not very good, but you know, his job is to, to carry that, you know, okay? Now, formal cooperation occur when the cooperators share in some way in the intention and purpose of the one whom he assists. This is always evil. You have a friend, you say, you know, we go to Citizen Bank and we will commit a hold-up. Come with me, you will help me to hold the bag. You will not hold the gun, but I will, okay? You say, okay, it's not a crime to hold a bag. I hold the bag. You know, what I participate in the, you know. Of course, I did not manage to kill, but I hold the bag. I cooperate. Formally, I know. The taxi driver, maybe he does not know. Maybe he knows, maybe he does not know, you know. But when he drives the car, it is to carry passenger like anybody, you know. So we have a material cooperation, and you can have a formal cooperation. It is the problem for abortion, for example. And the doctor will make an abortion, the nurses who work with him, they cooperate. They know. They know that. Okay? But if a bank, if a company invests in birth control or abortion in the world, maybe you don't know. And you put your money there. So your money is serving from that, but you don't know. It is a material cooperation. Material cooperation. Okay, so what I invite you, it is to read by yourself, or you already did that, I'm sure you did that. You read the Source of Morality of Father Faculty on page 409. That reading will complete, explain what I told you here during the class. And it is more detailed with very good example. Father Austin Faculty use a lot of examples to help you to understand. So he speak about the end, the act itself, the object, the act itself, the motive, page 4, with many examples about after circumstances. It is very, very well done. And you see, and at the end, about the principle, at the end, justify the means. And page 421, 421, we speak about the principle of double effect. In fact, he used the 4 principles we saw, but what he is doing is explaining them. So I think it's valuable to read that. Not only for the examination, but for your own benefit. I can tell you, it is one of the most important problems in ethics is here. The problem. So you have 2 documents for that. You have the document of Father Faculty, page 423, and that goes up to, it gives you example, a dangerous flight, for example, the nephew who wants to inherit from his uncle and he makes his uncle drunk, etc. And after that you have the text by Dr. Diane Irving. What she is doing, she is taking the text of Father here, life issues in that net. You have that, 523. 523. So when you read that, and you can underline what is the teaching from Father Faculty, because she uses exactly Father Faculty, almost word for word, but she applies that to the problem of abortion. Okay, now we take a recreation. It's a lack of double effect. The good effect is to take a rest, but the bad effect is to lose some time to study.
Take the good with the bad.
We'll be responsible. We'll remain responsible.
That's right.